How you doing?
I'm really well, thank you.
Good. Awesome. Cool. Okay, we'll get to the questions. People have been waiting. The provincial election is over. Premier Ford has another mandate for another 4 years.
She does.
Okay. LRT loop. Have you talked to him about that?
No, we have a plan to have dinner and to talk about all our priorities. So hopefully I will do that in the near future. And he knows very well what our priorities are here in Mississauga. And the downtown loop has got to be, on the top of that list, as is all-day two-way GO train service and a number of other, I would say those are the top two, you know.
Okay.
But certainly the LRT loop in the downtown is pretty key.
Cool. Is there anything else you're going to be talking to him about?
Well, it's always transit infrastructure. Thank him for the investments he has made in Mississauga, and they're quite great actually. Especially when I think about the hospital rebuild, and thank him for those investments. We're still looking for funding for the public marina,
Yeah.
transit terminal, LRTs. So sorry, I meant the loop. We talked about the BRTs along Dundas and along Lakeshore. Those have been committed to and need to finalize. So a lot of infrastructure transit related priorities are usually, and all the, and then I would say housing affordability is so vital. And he and I see it differently. He sees it as a supply issue, and I see it as an affordability issue, because I know we can incentivize supply, but then we're going to continue to get small condominiums built, and we need housing that's appropriate for families, for newcomers, etc., that's affordable for them, because at the end of the day, we want people to live, work, and invest in Mississauga. So we need to talk about housing affordability. And then with the mayors of Ontario, we're always looking for revenue tools, as you know, that we're heavily reliant on the property tax, which I think we all agree is very regressive. And, about 60% of our revenue is based on property taxes, and we can't run a deficit. And then, of course, there is also federal, provincial transfers, gas tax money, etc. But at the end of the day, the City of Toronto has the lowest tax rates, largely because they can subsidize them because they have other revenue tools. And we have asked the Premier and the previous Premier, in fact, many times to give us the same suite of tools and let us decide what is appropriate for our own councils, our own cities.
Cool. So on average, we've been writing articles about this for a while now. 12 cars get stolen a day in Mississauga and Brampton. That's a lot. Is anything being done by the Peel Police to, kind of stop this?
So a lot is being done, and certainly this problem was very acute during COVID because, of course, electronic equipment was part of the supply chain problem. We weren't getting it imported, so there was a huge backlog. And what we found was thefts was increasing more so for parts of vehicles than for export abroad. But export is still a big concern as well. The good news is Peel Regional Police do have a very high solvency rate, but we can't solve this alone. And so I think you recall that at the police board, we passed a motion to say that we need to put a little, focus on this, a greater lens on this issue, and work with not only the auto manufacturers, the insurance industry, other stakeholder groups, including Canada Border Services, so there's greater inspection on those containers that are leaving the country, not just what's coming in, but what's going out. Because let's be honest, once your car is in a container destined for export to a third world country, very slim chance of getting it back. And it's, all the sensors aren't even activated because the container is pretty,
Oh, true.
there's no signals are
Yeah.
able to be penetrated, right? So, there's a whole bunch of issues, including car manufacturers. What more can they do to make cars safe, right? What more can people do to ensure that their cars are locked and safe? What about other stakeholder groups? What about the insurance industry? Can they provide support? And then, of course, on the prevention side, the detection side, and the solvency side with the police, and sharing information. Right. I think the very high profile theft recently of a hockey player, right, that had
Yeah.
his car stolen. Yeah, that really raised awareness of the issue. It can happen to anyone, and
Sure.
that in fact was a carjacking.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a car theft sitting idly in a parking lot alone. It was a carjacking, which was
Sure.
very scary. I'm quite sure. But greater inspections on export of the export containers is very important too, because we all know that that's what happens if your car is not taken apart for parts and components, which we saw happening during COVID when parts weren't available, especially the electronic parts, right? Those little components. Then if it's designated for export, can we stop that?
So let's talk about packing your patients at Pearson Airport. I think one thing we've learned over the last couple of weeks, it's not one issue, it's hundreds of issues, right?
Absolutely. So, and it's really unfair to point the finger at any one group, organization, stakeholder. This is really COVID related as well. Let's be honest, travel because of lockdowns, etc., declined 95%. So 5% of travel at the airport. And with lockdowns and people not traveling, of course, many people lost their jobs. People from baggage handlers to agents at the airport, to customs agents, just everyone, flight attendants at the airlines. And so now we're staffing back up. And of course, we know that the federal government has provided $300 million to hire more CATSA people, screeners at the airport, etc. The airport is trying to attract more baggage handlers. The airlines are trying to staff up from flight attendants. I remember very well that flight attendants who lost their jobs were volunteering in hospitals during COVID. They did great work, but nonetheless, we lost those people, and many people went on to other industries and other sectors. But once they lost their job, they looked for other employment. So we lost those people. They have to be hired back. They have to be trained, and they have to be put in position. But this is a problem that is multifaceted, is very complex. And I think everyone is working on it. Certainly the federal government, I feel, has stepped up, providing the additional funding to Pearson and to the other airports. We've already hired 1,000 people for screeners and CATSA aid border agents, immigration agents. So that's great news. I know they could use more. I know the airlines are trying to staff up. Pearson is trying to open more kiosks. So everyone is working together. And I know that the problem is improving. The situation is improving. Certainly some people have gone through recently and said, hey, it was a very positive experience. My bags, in fact, were waiting for me when I landed, which is great. Other people, no, it was kept on the plane and our luggage didn't arrive. So it's kind of hit and miss now, but let's be honest, we have a very concerted effort trying to address the problem. They're acutely aware there's a serious problem, and no one was prepared for the interest that people had because of they hadn't been traveling in 2.5 years.
Yeah.
And it also affects passport renewal. The passport renewal offices and Nexus offices are completely inundated. And, they have to staff up as well. So this is it's a terrible problem, but also a good problem to have. People are interested in traveling once again. There has been a lot of suppressed interest over the 2.5 years where, I can say I stayed home. Many of us stayed home, not traveled. And so there's a lot of interest in traveling abroad once again. So all of a sudden you went down to 5% travel at Pearson Airport. And now, we're building back up to 100% where we were 2019. So it takes a little while to ramp up. And I think they're doing a good job addressing it. It's not fast enough, but they're certainly trying their best.
Yeah. And talking about passports, I washed mine and it's absolutely ruined. So I have to go to the passport office. Yes.
So why don't you mail it in?
Because that takes 9 months now.
Okay. I did it like pre-COVID. Pre-COVID in about 10 days.
That's my issue. Sorry, okay. The question out there, Crombie, can the municipality do anything to alleviate a little bit? Nothing, right? Can they do anything with the Pearson? No?
Well, I have regular conversations with Deborah Flint, and she keeps me informed of what measures she's put in place. And largely it has been, hiring more baggage handlers, opening more kiosks at the airport, advocating to the federal government for the funding which they've received, working with the airlines, increasing the flow of people through the airport, making it a little easier for people. So it's not, it's just not just the airport. It's
Yeah.
the airlines, it's flight attendant, it's border control people, it's immigration, it's scanning officers. It's multifaceted. That it's just because travel was down, these people left their jobs, left the industry, have moved on. We need to ramp back up. It's just not happening fast enough. But certainly, we're all, especially the federal government. I've got to hand it to Minister Alghabra. He's on it. He is
Yeah.
on it. He knows.
Not just Omar's fault. Let's just put it out there. It's everybody.
And he's the one who's put 300 million against it
Yeah.
to improve the problem. And they have all working, they have to work in concert, and they are. And I know they speak regularly. And I've been in communication with Deborah Flint, who runs GTAA Toronto Pearson as well. So
Okay.
everyone is working closely. And I think we've seen pockets of huge improvements. Yet we've seen Air Canada issue an apology because they're very aware that they haven't stepped up, or not to the degree they needed to. Like we all saw the article where the mother and her children missed their flight and ended up having to sleep in the airport. Well, why did they sleep in the airport? They should have been given hotel accommodation. So everybody has to work together to fix this problem. And people are missing flights and missing baggage, but on the whole, things are improving.
Cool.
It's not possible.
I hate to bring up the C word, but, people are saying, some doctors are saying we're in the 7th wave, which is absolutely crazy. COVID, is there a 4th dose strategy for, people in Mississauga and Brampton?
So we are in a 7th wave. That is true. And we know that not because people are doing PCR testing at public testing sites anymore, but because of the wastewater. We do monitor the water in the wastewater, and we are seeing increased levels of COVID in the wastewater. So we know that we are, and we're hearing the anecdotes. There's a new variant. I know a few people who have been impacted by it, and it is very serious. From the one I have seen, it affects the throat, and you almost have strep throat-like symptoms. It's fever for a long time and very sore throat. So I think there is evidence we are in a 7th wave, and I do caution people to be careful. And we all have RAT testing kits at home. If you're not feeling well, if you have symptoms, please test yourself, and you know the drill. Isolate, don't go out. But now, if you're going to be in a setting where there's a lot of people and you feel uncomfortable, feel free to wear your mask and keep a distance from people. Those have always been the rules, and they are still the rules. I was out at Canada Day. I had a great time, but there were a few times I thought, I wonder if I should put a mask on. There are a lot of people here, and everyone was so excited to be out. It's the first time we've seen so many people out at Canada Day in a long time, and I hit every pocket of the city. And it was wonderful. You could see people were thrilled to be out again, but there were a few times I was worried.
Before we get into a segue to Canada Day, I'll talk to you about that. Are there going to be kind of vaccination centers popping up for the 4th dose?
So we do have, the best thing to do is to check Peel Region /COVID, check the site. So certainly the Peel Regional sites are still open, and you can book an appointment. I think it's quite quick right now, because I think we're still only vaccinating 60 plus, unless it's moved to 50 plus. I think it's still at 60 plus. There are provinces who have moved to 18 plus, so everyone who is eligible can get their vaccine. So that's something I think the Premier will make an announcement about, or at least the Ontario Public Health Officer will make an announcement about in the near future if they think that's necessary to do. And they may. I've had my 2nd booster, so my 4th shot. Okay. And yeah, and I encourage people to do it. Why not? Why not? We know it's going to protect you. And at a minimum, your symptoms will be less severe, and you won't have to go to the hospital, and you won't need to go to the ICU. You probably won't need to be hospitalized. And we're hearing that there may be an Omicron specific vaccine in the fall. So which is very good news too, because Omicron, of course, is a little different, and this new variant is a little different than even the Omicron I had, which I had, Christmas time, the 24th to Jan 4th.
Yeah.
I think I got off very easy. I had slight congestion and a lot of fatigue, but when I'm hearing a few people, I have a couple of girlfriends who have it, and I think they were together, maybe at a funeral visitation, and it's very serious throat
Yeah.
issues, like their glass. You feel like there's glass in your throat, like strep-like symptoms.
Knock on wood, I haven't had it, but my son has, but he loved it because he just watched all the X-Men movies all week. So, last question. Fun question.
Yes.
I know you did Canada Day. How crazy was that?
It was amazing. I loved it. I
Yeah.
was absolutely exhausted. I didn't have a voice the next day, but it was so much fun. Johnny and his team, Diane Goldsmith, John Botso in Port Credit, Paint the Town Red parade. It was amazing. I think it was bigger and better than ever. It was the longest parade I've seen. People were so excited. I couldn't believe how many people were lining the streets. It was absolutely wonderful. They do an incredible job each and every year. Johnny and Diane, your lieutenant, that's a great work. Thank you. Just bringing the whole community together. And then went up to Malton because Councillor Parrish organizes a great Canada Day for everyone up in Malton. And I know that she prides herself on having the biggest, best, longest fireworks, but I don't know. There are some pretty good fireworks displayed. And listen, we were lucky because we all knew that the vendor in Toronto stepped away. For whatever reasons, I don't know the full story, but for whatever reason, a lot of the big fireworks displays in Toronto didn't proceed, or they were much smaller because they had to get someone else in at the last minute. So we were very fortunate. From Malton Celebration Square, where we did the reaffirmation of the oath, citizenship oath, and we had a great time. Also very busy. That it was jam-packed at Celebration Square. And then I went up to Churchill Meadows, and Councillor McFadden assures me there were 10,000 people in the park while I was there, and it would grow to 30,000 for the fireworks. It was huge, and she had some great bands, lots of activities for kids and families. It was a wonderful family event. And then Streetsville as well. Streetsville had great entertainment. Matt Zaddy was there with Heather, and Councillor Carlson. We pay tribute to him because, of course, he's retiring. And yeah, Streetsville was a great event, and then had to decide whether to go to, which firework display to attend, and ended up going closer to my home turf down in Port Credit, went into the park because it was a different crowd than I had seen at that parade in the morning, the evening crowd. And they had great entertainment. Again, Johnny and his team, great entertainment, stayed for the fireworks, which I thought just went on and on and on. And then some of the staff sent me some video of the fireworks at Celebration Square, which were equally incredible. The word I heard was there were at least 3 occasions where we thought it was the finale and they were wrapping up and just kept going. Right. So it was what an exciting day. I mean, I probably couldn't tell you my name by the end of the day. I was so exhausted. I spoke so much.
Did you do the F-45 next day?
When did I do it? No, I didn't.
I'm kidding. I didn't expect you to do it the day after. So
I don't think I did it, but I think I may. Yeah, I did it the day before and the day after, whatever, but not then. Anyways, it was just a fantastic day. I want to thank everyone because, the councillors who get involved, they have their organization committees every corner of the city. We all wanted to celebrate. Mississauga came out on Canada Day to celebrate. But while I say that, let me also say that it is a reminder to us that while we're celebrating our great country where, we value human rights and democracy, etc., that we've just come out of a very dark chapter, and we still continue to find the children's remains in the residential schools. And it's very important to keep that in mind, that not everyone was celebrating with us, and we have a long way to go for true reconciliation with our Indigenous communities. And it's very important that on Canada Day we remember that. And so I made a point of talking about it at Celebration Square, and I think that's vitally important. So we'll all remember that, and we'll also take the time on the National Day, which will happen in September, to really come to terms with Indigenous issues and hope to God that we don't find any more remains.
So will you be going to every single Celebration Square event this summer?
I'll go to as many as I can for sure, but believe it or not, sometimes I have other responsibilities and
Okay.
other events to attend. But certainly I love to, I enjoy all the festivals. I just love that. For a long time, Carasaga was the leading one. And, we used to map out our plan and go to all the pavilions. My family loved it. What's not to love? Dance, music, great food, wonderful people. It's Mississauga. We celebrate each other.
August 20th, Japan Festival. That's the only thing I MC all year now. So you have to come.
Of course.
All right. Cool.
Of course.
Okay.
It's the largest festival. Over
Yeah, I think it's
70,000 people attended in its height
yeah,
over
I
2
think
days. Mm-hmm.
yeah, this year is going to be even more crazy because I think they have more food vendors this year than ever before. I think they have like 16. So
Wow.
yeah, all over Mississauga, Toronto, they're all coming here. So Mayor Crombie, thank you so much. I'll
Thanks
see you
very
in a
much,
month.
Khaled. You will.
Bye.
Thank you.